So if you makabel achrayus and you're over by the Yorei by the matzah, and if you don't, then you're not. So we're examining what exactly is called kabel achrayus. So we had a problem in the Rambam where he said that if you have an alim or a gangster, even if you don't makabel achrayus, since you know you're going to have to pay the guy back, so therefore you're going to be that's called, it's in your reshus, it's in your achrayus, and you're over by the Yorei by the matzah. That even though this guy, he gives you the chometz, and you say, I'm not taking the achrayus, so if anything happens to it, I don't have to pay, since he's a strong person, and you have to pay him back, so you have to pay him back. So that's the sheet of the Rambam. Shipotskin, like the Ravid, disagrees, only if you makabel achrayus. So therefore, when you sell your chometz to a goy, the goy ain't going to pay $3 million to buy the chometz, and therefore it's still in your reshus. So that's how we left it off, and we had three different maklokas in this. So the fourth part comes up here, involve Amar Aleph, Tana Rabbanan. Nachri shenichnes lachatzoro shel Yisrael. So a goy enters into a Jew's house. Batziko biyado, and he has the chometz in his hand. So the goy enters the house of the Jew with the goy's chometz. Ein zokuk levaer. You don't have to remove the chometz. So since it's the goy's chometz, you don't have to remove it. Obviously, if it's crumbs going everywhere, so you have to get rid of it. But if he comes in with a bottle of whiskey, so therefore he's holding in his hand, you can just leave him there. There's no problem. Hefkido etzlo zakuk levaer. But if the goy is mafked the chometz to the Jew, Rashi v'kibel level achrayus hefkidu eslo v'kibel of level achrayus as v'rshav zachuk levaer. You have to remove it. And the previous Rashi ein zachuk levaer lo hetzkochu lohotzi es anachri min abayis. You don't have to remove the goy from your house. If he comes in with the chometz, you don't have to remove him. But because we said in the brisa before that ataroeh shela shelachirim, so you like to see it, no problem. The goy's in the house, but if you makabel achrayus, so then you have to remove it. And again, if you makabel achrayus, and then you remove it, so then you pay, you destroy the chometz and then pay back the goy for the chometz that you destroyed. So yachid lo bayis ein zakuk levaer. So if you give the goy a house, you give him a place for the chometz, yachid lo bayis, you give the goy a bias, then ein zachuk levaer shenemar lo yimotze. So we have the pasuk of lo yimotze, and therefore, if you're yachid lo bayis, you don't have to do the bir chometz. Therefore, you're not over bali yorei bali matzeh on chometz at yachid lo bayis. So Rashi kloimer, the yachid lo bayis, the pasuk b'shad is you make an area that's the goy. So as we sell our chometz, we'd say it's in a cupboard. So you sell the cupboard with the chometz. So yachid lo bayis. So then you have the area of your cupboard is for the goy's chometz. So it's not your reshus anymore. It's his reshus. He gets the chometz and he gets the reshus. But Rashi says kloimer. It doesn't mean that you yachid lo bayis. It means lo kabel alav. So you didn't makabel achrayus. So Rashi here is saying that since you didn't makabel achrayus, that's why you're potter. So you have the heter here of yachid lo bayis. That's the heter of ein zachuk levaer, because you have over bali yorei bali matzeh. So Rashi lo kabel achrayus. So you're potter because you didn't makabel achrayus. The whole house in front of you. So Hanak, so leave your chometz in one of the corners, but I'm not taking a achrayus for it, and therefore you don't have to ba'er it. So the Gemara continues, my kamar, how is the pasuk of lo yimotzeh, the drasha that you don't have to remove it? So Amar Rav Papa, a Reisha Kai. So Rav Papa is saying this going on the Reisha. V'hachid kamar hafkiru etzlo zakuk levaer. So Rav Papa is going that this isn't on yachid lo bayis. That the lo yimotze is not going on yachid lo bayis, but on before it. Here's yachid lo bayis, which is the second half of the brisa. But here we have ein zakuk levaer because you're makabel achrayus on a zakuk levaer because it says lo yimotze. So that's Rav Papa, and therefore the whole din of Yachid Lo Bias is Misvara. He knows this to be true. And Rav Ashi says La'olam Seifakai Achid Kamar. So therefore we have the Lo Yimatzeh on the Seifa in order to teach us that Yachid Lo Bias is Potter. Achid Kamar Yachid Lo Bias Ein Zachag Lo Ba'er Shenemar Lo Yimatzeh Bevatechem. It's not his. The high lav didehu, it's not his. The nachri ki kama'al lebeitu the nafshe kama'al, because when the goy brings in the chometz, so therefore he's bringing the chometz for himself. It's his own chometz into his own place, and therefore you're potter from the lo yimatzeh. So therefore Rav Ashi's learning from the pasuk, and Rav Papa knows the seifa from a svara. So here's the Toisus. So lachid yul bias. Perisha contrast to lo kabbalah le'achrayis. Why are you potter? Because he didn't makabel achrayis. But you said to him, the whole house is in front of you. So now here is a kasha l'ri. Ma'iraya yachid. What difference does it make? Since you did makabel achrayis, who cares whether there is? You can say, leave your stuff in the corner of my house, and you have this area for him. If you lo yachid nami, you're still potters. We had the whole thing. The whole din is that if you're not makabel achrayis, therefore you're not over paliori palimatzeh. Therefore, this whole din of yachid bias. What's the chiddush? Achinami masik b'samach lamemer de sechirus koneh. We're going to get the Gemara talks about whether you're koneh with when you're seicher. So he learns that the Gemara later on, as the maskana is that sechirus is koneh. So Toys is referring to later in the Gemara. It says Lememra de sechirus koneh, so that from this idea of Yachid Lo Bias, the Gemara gets into whether sechirus is koneh or not. So we learn here in the Gemara that the sechirus is koneh. But according to Rashi, the whole point is just that you did makabel achrayis, so therefore you can't learn sechirus from our case. So therefore, Tosis says, now Tosis here says, even if you have a achrayis on the object, so therefore Yachid Lo Bayit is a heter. Rashi holds that it's not a heter for achrayis, because once you makabel achrayis, you're chayiv. Tosis here, big chiddush Tosis of Rabbeinu Tam, is that even if you makabel achrayis, once you Yachid Lo Bayit, you're potter and bali matzeh. And we poskin like this Tosis, which gives us many kulas and gets us out of lots of problems. We're taking it out of the pasuk. The lo chashiv moitzi. It's not considered that you're finding it because you gave him the house. So you give him his own mokum, you give him his own house, and therefore he's not called yimotzeh. And Rav Papa knows it from a svara, so he doesn't need the lo yimatzeh. So therefore, the Rav Ashi, he learns it from lo yimatzeh, but Rav Papa doesn't need it. Kevin sheyachid lo bayis have a gi'ilu kabila lav achrayis. Since that he gave him the house, it's like he gave him the achrayis on al chabsu shal nachri bebesu shal nachri. It's like it's the chometz of the nachri. So why, says Rabbeinu Tam, would you be chayiv for destroying the goy's chometz? So what comes out of the Tosfos, we have a case of where you're walking across the street and your goy friend walks out of his bodega supermarket and on Pesach and he asks you to watch over his store. So since you're watching over the store, you're makabel achrayis, but there's no problem because it's Yachid Lo Bayis. All the chometz is in the reshus of the goy. It's nothing to do with your reshus, and therefore you're allowed to take achrayis on those items, and that you can watch over take achrayis as long as the chometz is in the goy's place. So therefore, when the main rabbis are selling the chometz to the goy, so then they sell the place as well. Wherever the chometz is, and they sell the place as well. So the place is of the goy. So even if the goy isn't never going to pay for it, it's okay, because even though he never makabel achrayis for it, since it's in his malkum, the whole achrayis, even if the Jew has to pay for it, it doesn't matter because it's in his malkum. And they also put a clause in of the chometz and kol malkum shehu, another malkum that the chometz is in. So if a cookie somehow gets out of your chometz cupboard, then the malkum that the cookie is there is the goy's, and therefore it's not actually your chometz, and you don't have to do the beer on that cookie because it's still in the bias of the goy. So therefore, it comes out that this is a machlokas when you're selling the chometz as to whether you have to say specifically where the cupboards are, I am selling this cupboard that has the chometz in it, or if you have the clause of b'kol makom shahu and wherever the chometz is. So therefore, you specifically don't say where the cupboards are, because wherever the chometz is, then the whole makom that the chometz is in is koneh to the goy. So back in the Gemara, Hayim base. So we've discussed, we now have the rule that when you have a achrayus, therefore you are over bali already. But I might say when there's no achrayus, you're not. So the Gemara says, Hanicha laman da'amr davar gurm lemaman kamaman dami. So since you have something that is causing you a loss, if that can get lost, you got to pay for it. So it's causing mammon. That's like mammon. So it's like your mammon. So since you have a achrayus for something, if you lose it, obviously if nothing happens to it, you just give it back. But if you lose it, you got to pay. You got to pay for new ones. So since you pay for the new one, then that's like it's yours because it's like your moment already. So according to this, there's an ikka to amri coming up, but in the first lashon here, hanicha laman, that we're learning that the whole reason that you're chayiv for bali motzi for achrayus is because of davar gorm lemom kamam dami. And the question's only on laman damar lav kamam dami ma'ik lemeimor. Why is it true that since if you lose it, it's a davar le gorim the moment. It's not like your moment. So therefore, since it's not like your moment, why would you be chayiv for when you take on achrayus? So shani hachadamer lo yimatzeh. So you have a gezer sekosov. But again, this first lashon hanicha is that it's good lashon according to the davar gorim kamam dami. So therefore, now in this Ikata Amri, we're learning that the whole reason you're potter is nothing to do with Davar or Gorim Lamamon. That's why we need Loi Motzi. You have the posuk. So Hanich Lamam Lav Kamamon Domi. That's how we're learning that there's nothing to do. The achrayus has nothing to do with lav kamam dami because we have this pasuk of lo yimatzeh. Ela leman da'amar kamam dami lo yimatzeh lamali. So according to we have now a kasha. If you hold up kamam dami, what do I need this pasuk lo yimatzeh? I know it anyway. It's true. Since when I don't lose it and it's just there, I give it back to as it is. It's lav barashutek kai. I would say it's lav barashutek kamash melan. Now again, two ways to learn the Kamash Malan. It is Kamam and Domi, or that we have the pasuk of Lo Yimotzeh, which is a Gezer Sekosov to make you chayiv. And the Binaf Kamin is then how do we actually learn out the din of achrayus? Is din of achrayus a case of Davar Gurm Lemomon Domi? So if you have something that is Davar Gurm Lemomon, but it's not in your achrayus, so then are you going to be over Bali Roya, Bali Motzeh for it? So here's a Mishnah on Memvav Amad Aleph. Mishnah says, "Keitzis mefarshim chala betuma." So if you have, obviously chala will be chometz, and it's in tuma. And how do you mafresh it on yontiv? It's tamei, so you can't eat it. So the next page of the end of in the middle of the Mishnah, lo zehu chometz shemazrin alei b'bayuri bali motzi. So the chala is not something that you have that you're warned on a bayuri bali motzi. Rashi. So when you separate challah, it belongs to the kohen, and therefore it's not yours. Since it's not yours, so therefore you don't have a cries for it, and therefore you're potter on the chometz. It has to be yours, and this isn't yours because once you call it challah, therefore it's of the kohen, it's not yours. So you can't say that the kohen's not over because you never gave it to the kohen yet. Because since the kohen doesn't own it and you don't own it, therefore you are potter of chametz on this challah. So the Piskei Teshuvah, the sorfin, so kasab bercha Yosef, aloidis ha'isha. There's a woman, and then she separated challah and she left it on the side, and then a bird came and ate the challah that she separated. Is she chayiv to separate the challah? Is she chayiv to separate another challah? So davar boror. It's obvious. So since you have to give the challah to a kohen, therefore you're chayiv b'achruso. So this is the din of the bercha Yosef. So it's brought down in the Piskei Teshuvah that for the challah you're chayiv b'achruso. You have to bring a new challah. So if so therefore there's a kasha on the Mishnah, which we just saw, because we just said that challah is not chometz that you're over bali matzeh. The Afike Yam brings Sheisha Taretz Masha Makshim Lashitas Bercha Yosef. This is the Bercha Yosef just brought in the Biscuit Teshuva. Dim Hefer Shchala Misa Yerchayv Yerchruso. Just like Rishis Agayz, that if you take some wool for the Kohanim and then you lose it, you got to pay them back. Umakshima Oilam, it's an obvious question from the Mishnah in Pesachim. Ketzim Meforshim Chala Betuma. Where he says that's not the chometz that you're over bali matzeh. And that's because it's not his. That's what Rashi says. And if you think that there is in the Bailim a chiv of achrayus, and if he loses the challah, he's chayiv lahafresh acheres. Therefore, why is this any worse of a goy's chometz that you makabel that you makabel alav achrayus? So therefore, we see this is the question. Since you have to get a new challah, so therefore you should be over bali motzeh. So what's going on with the shittas of the Berchas Yosef? So now we have the Haderes Gono. The lo kasha midi. The davka imrami aleya chiyuv achrayus b'shvil oitoi chametz. So the way he explains it is that if he has to pay back that chametz which he lost, so that's like it's his for bali motzeh. So if you separate the challah and in that challah you lost, you have to pay for that challah you've lost and give that back to the kohen. Now you're over bali motzeh. But here something different is happening. Masha ein kein chiyuv achrayus de challah of the Bercha Yosef. So what Bercha Yosef is talking about something completely different. He doesn't have to repay the challah which he separated at all. That challah is lost. It's not nothing to do with me. I don't care. Rak dechiyev nesina rami elei b'shvil isasoi. So the dough which he has, he separated the challah. Now he's got the challah and he can eat his own dough. But once he loses the challah, he never gave it to the kohen. Now the dough goes back to being tevel. Since the dough's going back to being tevel, he needs to separate a new challah in order to take out the dough from its tivlo. So for sure, if he just lost his whole dough, he would never have to owe the kohen anything, and he would never have to give any challah. So he has no achrayus on the challah. It's just the din of that. Since his dough goes back to being tavel, so if he wants to eat the dough, he's got to bring new challah. So now going back to the Gemara, so we have the if you lose the challah, it's costing you money. Your dough now is smaller, and you have to pay for something. So in the second lesson, in the Ikeda Amri, you're not over bali motzeh for that case, even though it's a davar hagrim lemomon, because we're in the case of hanicha lamantam or davar hagrim lav k'momon domi, and therefore we learn in the Maskane here that this Kamash Malan is telling us that it's a pasuk of lo yimotzeh. And really, that the davar kurim kamomon dami is not the reason why you're chayiv but achrayus for the pasuk as it comes out in the fikayam. Even if it is a davar kurim lamomon, you're still potter and bali motzeh, and there has to be a level of achrayus on that. And davar kurim lamomon is not enough to machavi bali motzeh, and that's how it comes out. The Gemara continues with a different question. Boy Mirava and the Panei Yeshua explains what's the connection to what we have before. So Behema Arnona, the simplest pshad is that it's a tax on your behema, that the government is taking a tax, or the king takes a certain percentage of your behema. So you're chayiv b'chora or ein chayiv b'chora. So the Rav Elchanan Vosserman says here that obviously it's poshet that you're potter from a bachor, from the bechor. If you have a shutfus with a goy in a behema, then it's potter from bechor. Therefore, that's not the question. The question is that you have a shutfus with the king, but the king never collected besuf. He never collected this tax. He never collected his tax from the behema. So what's the din? So kol heicha demotzi masalak le bezuze lo ka mebailan. So anywhere where we are, where you can just give him the money and you can keep the behema completely, we never had the question, because it's obvious you're chayiv in the bechor. Where we're asking is where you're not able to remove him with money. What's the din? And he says that you're potter. But we have a brisa that says you're chayiv. Hasam dematzi masalikle. There, you're able to get him off with money, so you can just pay him off. So ikata amri amarava behemas are non patura min bechor. That's what we saw before. Even though you can remove him with money, and isas. So here you're potter from the bechor, even if you can remove the money. And the isas, if you have a dough of arnona, you're chayiv in chala. You should be potter in chala, just like the same as you have a shotvus in chala. You're potter. So for the shotvus in the bechor, should be potter. Yafalgav de lo matzi masalek, even though you can't remove them with money. So my timer, behema has a call. So therefore, when you don't give the bukhor of the behema, everyone knows that the king is taking a portion of the cow. That's why you don't pay. But the isa lisle kala, there's no call. So when someone sees you not taking dough chala from your dough, then there's a michshol and might come to not take dough. Now the key takeaway in this Gemara. Halacha lamaisa is that if you earn $100 and there's a tax on it, and your income tax is 40%, and you only have $60 at the end, how much do you pay meiser? How much is the call that you own? So since here that this cow is not called your cow, because the king has a tefisa in the cow, and therefore will take money from the cow. So therefore we see that we don't look at the gross amount, you look at the net amount. And if you're working out your meiser, you only work out your net amount, the 60 and not the 100, because when you have the tefisa, that's called the shoitfus, and it was never your, just like if this was your behema completely, then you would have to pay, you would have to give a bukhor on it, but it's not called your behema. And that would be different to optional taxes. So, for example, sales taxes or VAT, when you don't have to buy chocolate bars. You can live your whole life without doing that. So, therefore, any, or you could even just change your country after you make the money, go spend your money elsewhere, in a different country that has different taxes or no tax. So, any tax that is optional. So, therefore, you'll have to you would pay your meiser before those taxes. But the taxes that are the government already has a tefisa on it. So there, you don't include them in your cheshbon. So the Gemara here ends, Ki kama ayil, lebeita denafshe kama ayil. So it seems to be that when you're yachid lo bias to the goy, then that becomes his house. So the Gemara says, is that to say that sechirus is koneh, that when you're a sleich or something, so therefore you're koneh. Ayva hatanan, af b'mokum she'amru lahaskir. So this is in Avodah Zarah. So in a mokum would be chutz la'aretz, that they said that it's mutter to rent out a house to a goy. Lol the base dira omer, you can't give him a house that he can make into his own house. Mipnei shemachnisin l'toichu avodah zarah. So that's what the Mishnah in Avodah Zarah says, that you can't give a house to a goy that he can make his own living space into, because he'll bring his own Avodah Zarah in there. But if you think that sechirus is koneh, then when he brings into his house, then what's the problem? He's not bringing Avodah Zarah into your house, he's bringing Avodah Zarah into his house because he's rented the house. What's the problem? So now the Gemara here says, Shani hachad afke rachmana b'loshan lo yimotzeh. It's different here because the Torah spoke in the loshan of lo yimotzeh. So the drosha on the lo yimotzeh, Misha moitzi biadcha, yatzeh she'ena moitzi biadcha. And Rashi, sheharei oito izavis masira lenachrit, that since you've given him that space, that's not called motzi. So therefore we have even though that the sechirus is not koneh, so we have the Torah says lo yimotzeh, which means if you gave the place specifically to the goy, so then that's not called motzui. So lo yimotzeh, when you yachid lo bayis to the goy, therefore that's not in the gether of lo yimotzeh. So this is Avodah Zarah Tes Vav Amud Aleph. Gemara goes through as a bit of a sugya asking about sechirus, the sechirus kanya. So ela shema mina sechirus lo kanya. So the maskon of the Gemara here in Avodah Zarah is that sechirus is not kanya, but it is a machlokas rishonim as to whether when you are a sleicher, are you koneh the object for that time or not. And Tosfos here, hashta damar sechirus lo kanya hacha maskinan. Here we have the maskana that sechirus doesn't koneh. We have a kasha in Perek Zahav in Bava Metzia. We have a maskana there that sechirus that has oina. Since it says v'kitamchru mimecher la misecha, it doesn't say v'kitamchru mimecher la oilam alma mecher karinale. So therefore, it's called that the sechirus has oina, and it's only because of the kitimchru you have to sell something, and therefore you see from the sechirus if you have oina that it's a mechira. So it's a kasha on the maskana here. So Toshi says, "Demai de mimecher karina le lefi shah hayinu davke lagabe oina dichtiv." So we have a gezerus akosov, and that oina and the sechirus of the oina is in a special gezerus akosov in the pasuk mimecher miyuter. So since he has this mecher miyuter, therefore, but in every other case, mihu b'shar makom was amrin and the sechirus hu de lo kanya. So Toshi is clear here that Toshi holds that sechirus is not koneh. So here's the Kobus Oris Rav Chanan Losman. Yishlach Akur Ledas Toises. So again, Toises is holding that sechirus is lo kanya. Da soicher asr ledor bebeisha hagdishu hamashkir. So if the landlord makadishes the apartment and the soicher, the renter can't live in it. So it's a din in lokeach. For the zman, so that's a soicher that you're buying it in the zman and then you makdish the moicher. So here he's not the soicher, but you buy it for his man. So this would be one of the nafkaminas that if you've actually rented it, and then if you now own it, so then when the landlord makdishes the apartment, since he doesn't own it, so therefore it doesn't chal the hektish. But if you hold that sechirus is lo kanya, so therefore when the landlord makadish is still his, so therefore he's able to. So here in the second parak, Kozel das Toisvis, well that's Rambam, Koneh Achrun, Leksuvus, the Sheicher Guf Koni Lo Leperusov. So that the Ramban argues that the sechirus is the goif is koneh to the soicher. So some nafkaminas we have, for example, if you rent a behemoth from a kohen, can you feed a truma or not? So if sechirus is lo kanya, so it's still the cows. It's the kohen who still owns the cow. Therefore, you can feed a truma. But the Ramban will say you can't. The goy will use if you rent a animal to a goy, can he use it for a malacha on Shabbos? If it's yours, he can't. But if it's sechirus is kanya, he can. If you have a mezuzah on a rented dira, Toisus holds that it's a din d'Rabbanan. Ramban holds that it's a deraisa din. But Rashi is also listed as holding that sechirus is kanya like Toisus, like the Ramban. So we go back to Dalad Amad Aleph, the Toisvis. Im Mishamoser Hamafteach, we can re-examine Smaklokas Rashi Toisvis through this filter. So Perish Rashi to Mesiris Mafteach koneh. So Rashi has this kinyan of Mesiris Hamafteach. But the Re doesn't like that because we say in Maruba Kashem Karka Niknas because of Star Uva Chazaka Kashachirus Karka is Nikna because of Star Uba Chazaka. So Tosis needs this sechirus this Kesef Star Uba Chazaka, but Rashi seems to be good enough with this Mesiris HaMafteach. So over here we answered that Rashi is just holding the Mesiris of the Mafteach. It's not for a kinyan of the Karka itself, it's just that you can't be choizer, you can't get out of the deal. Again, we were talking here about getting when you can and cannot get out of the deal because of the cleaning up of the chametz. So now Tosis isn't going to hold this idea because Rashi really has two kinyanim here. He has a Mesiris Mafteach which chals the kinyan and then you can't get out of it. And then he has a second kinyan called Kesef Star Uba Chazaka. So Rashi is holding that you can do a kinyan on the karka because the sechirus is koneh. Since the sechirus is koneh, then you're going to need the second kinyan, Kesef Star Uba Chazaka, to make this kinyan of the sechirus because the sechirus is koneh. So since the sechirus is koneh, so therefore you have the second kinyan in order to get that, in order to get that kinyan of the sechirus. But in order to just get out of it, that you're the chalos of the kinyan, so that you can't back out. There you have the Mesiris Hamafteach. So Rashi is having two kinyanim here, but Toisvis can't hold of that. Since Toisvis holds that there's no such thing as a kinyan on the sechirus, and therefore the Kesef Star and the Chazaka has to be on the sechirus itself, and therefore he can't hold it that Mesiris Hamafteach is one kinyan, and the Kesef Star Uba Chazaka is the second kinyan. The Tosis holds there is no kinyan karka, so there's no second kinyan. Therefore, he can't hold of this going on with the Rashi.